Hey everyone, and welcome back to Poddin My Noggin. Today we are joined by Daniel Hickman, who is a proud dad, um, beast of an athlete, and a podcast host himself. Welcome, Daniel. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, CK. I appreciate it.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. So, thanks for reaching out and agreeing to come on the show. I see that you also had a television spot not too long ago as well
Yeah,
about Black history being made at hockey. So, we're going to get into that a little bit later. Um, Full disclosure, I found your Instagram only moments before coming on this or hitting record and us joining today. Um, and just wow. Um, I have questions, of course, because there's certain things that I don't know what they mean, but we're going to get into that. But I know that
sure.
initially, I wanted to talk to you about when you wrote to me, you had discussed back in the early days how you had image issues. And can we talk about that?
Sure. I mean, it's more along the lines of the category like diversity, I think. So when I was in high school and middle school, I was half black, half Puerto Rican. And I had friends that are all different type of ethnic backgrounds. I didn't see color, but people recognize it with me. So being a dark skinned kid wearing a hockey jacket, playing with white kids playing hockey, it's a little different. And then I started realizing it was different when the cliques started happening, like in middle school or in high school. Because in elementary school, you just play with whoever, but the football players with the football players, the basketball players, and it's just kind of like, where do I fit in right now? I got this hair that's Puerto Rican, and then I'm dark, like I'm African American, but then I'm just me. I'm different, and I think I allowed myself to by leaving the nest and going to college 2.5 miles to 2.5 hours north of there in New Hampshire. It allowed me to leave the nest, leave my town that everyone knew who I was, to actually mold who I wanted to be. Um, and I think that's what allowed me. But unfortunately, alcohol came into play, and that allowed me to really find this image. Um, it was kind of like playing with fire, but at the same time, I wouldn't redo it all over again, just because it allowed me to really figure out who I was in college.
So in growing up, like what was your initial sort of call to hockey, the sport?
Sure, we're going way back, time machine. So my parents are from Queens and Brooklyn. My mom
Okay.
was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico. My dad was brought up in Queens, Brooklyn, in the middle of the city. Right, no
Okay.
hockey over there. He played basketball. Um, Former Marine. My mom is pregnant. I'm in my mom's belly. They moved to Connecticut to start a new life and get away from life in New York, because my dad had another wife, so they jetted. So basically, they moved to a town called Hamden, Connecticut. It's right between Yale University and Quinnipiac University, like right in the middle.
Okay.
So it's really diverse. You got a mixture of people that are really wealthy, and then you got a mixture of people that are really not, and you're like just
Okay.
smack dab in the middle. So our apartments, I didn't know this, but my apartments were right next to the hockey rink. My mom is spontaneous. She saw a bunch of kids walking in there. She's like, "What is that?" We drove by, went in, and it was hockey tryouts for learn to play hockey. 3.5 years old, and I went
Okay.
out there pushing a metal chair, and I was flying. It was just natural, and ever since, it's been part of my life.
That's a really cool story. Like, so I guess you have your mom to thank for sort of setting you on that path
Yeah,
to begin
absolutely.
with. And I wonder, did she know when she took you in
Nothing.
that this could
Just
turn into something a little more defining down the road?
No, I mean, she
Um,
was like an athletic, um, you know, person that played whatever. She was in the military as well, so it just her mixed with my dad was just like just turned into a little small short beast.
Fair, fair. So both of your parents had military backgrounds.
Yes.
Okay, and what's that like? Because I'm a pastor's kid, so there's some similarities, but not quite. But
Yeah. I mean, I was brought up and wanted to be a little Marine. I had a Marine hat, like really curled, and everything was like Marine this, Marine that, best military. Don't go to the Navy, don't go to the Army, don't go to the Air Force. If you're going to go to the military, do the Marines, and because it's harder. And that's how I was brought up. And um, that was the direction I was going. But then I ended up going to college for hockey. So it was just like I kind of broke the generational pattern that was supposed to happen by following my passion and the willingness to be different.
and how did
Because
your
I what
parents deal with that?
they allowed me to do it. I mean, it's just even like the traditional dinners in the city in New York with my family from my dad's side. There's the traditional like collard greens and sweet potatoes, all that stuff, and chicken and all that stuff. It's part of the culture, and I'm rolling up in there with a hockey jersey, hockey hat, and half my hockey gear still on. And
Mm,
they're just like, "Oh, you're gonna play for the New York Rangers?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, maybe I will."
maybe you
um,
will.
so they kind of turned into a joke. Then it kind of got a little serious, and then I got to play for like a minor league level of the New York Rangers, a couple levels below, but just you know, um, either way, I got to play professional, and it was something I will never regret. It was a risk that a lot of my peers didn't want to take. A lot of people told me not to do it, and I did it anyway.
Aren't you happy that you did that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so what it sounds like to me though is that while you may not have become a Marine, you were raised to have grit,
Yeah, and
right?
yeah,
And so
hard
that
work.
that translates a little bit to me when I'm looking at your Instagram page. Because to me, to do some of the things that I'm seeing you do over here requires a lot of grit
Absolutely.
to that in my
Yeah,
mind. I am not an athletic person. Never have been. So,
yeah.
I see those things. So, okay, so we're growing up. Did you externally, like you went through the process of realizing that you didn't quite fit? Um, did you experience a lot of sort of adversity coming towards you from classmates or schoolmates or things like that for your choices in sport?
All angles. But it made me, right. It gives me like chills to even say that, but like it made me. There was a lot of like stereotypes, or like even my white friends. I'll catch them say something they're not supposed to be saying, but that's the way they were brought up.
Yep.
um and same thing with like my mother-in-law. I love her very much, but she grew up in the Italian side of Boston. You know what I mean? It's just the way we are. Like if you're brought up in Boston, you're raised to hate the New York Yankees. If you're raised in New York, you're raised to hate the Boston Red Sox. It's just the way our generation has taught us to be. It may not be hate or anything. It's just the way that they were taught. So the way we hold a fork is the way we hold a fork. The way we may have the same posture as our parents, or um, if we hold the doors for old ladies, her kids are going to hold doors for the old ladies. So it's really just that generational pattern. But yeah, I mean, there's been girlfriends that didn't, want to be with me because of their parents. There's been prom dates that didn't work out because of a certain situation. It's just
Now,
things happen.
I have to ask, just to be clear, we're not just talking about because you're playing hockey here.
It's not, it's like fitting in the particular category. Um, so if you think of like LinkedIn, there's advertising, there's healthcare, there's which one do you fit in with your image at your high school, and which is way worse now with social media. I can't imagine
Oh, it is,
back in
yeah.
the day. But as soon as school was over, my life was over with that crap, and I got to play and do sports and ride my bike and be me and do go to hockey practices, girl Boy Scouts, all that stuff. But nowadays, it doesn't shut off for the kids nowadays for social media. It just continues. So I'm just blessed to not be in that time frame.
I would agree. I would agree. Um, the concept that you're talking about, we hold a fork the way we hold a fork. And it's up to us now as adults, right, to challenge why we hold the fork the way we hold the fork.
Yeah,
And I think this comes into that whole woke sort of situation that people use as a slur towards someone. But it's really about people who have now challenged these generational ideologies. Why do I hate the Boston Red Sox, for
exactly.
instance, right?
And
Like,
you start
is it
seeing clarity like later, something happened, something groundbreaking or traumatic has to happen. Like my mother-in-law passing away at 55, like a young age, and cancer. When you're in that situation to a house where they're no longer there, and your job is to clean up the stuff and get everything for donation into the garage. When that truck comes and the people take it, and it's just like, whoa, like life isn't about just things. Life isn't just about saving those car mats from your car that you sold in your garage. Like it's just life's not about those little things. It's really just about experiencing or people that work in a cubicle till they're 65 and be like, hey, I'm ready to retire now. Like, no, like you need to live now. And I know we talked a little bit about the nomad lifestyle, but that's the way me and wife are. We are living for now, and we're allowing our kids to experience a lot of things with us versus them trying to experience it by themselves without us.
I like that. We're going to talk on that a little bit more as well. So let's go back. We're in high school. You get accepted into, this is my brain, the name of the university. It's 2.5 hours north, you
Yep,
said.
Southern New Hampshire.
Yes. On a hockey scholarship?
Not a hockey scholarship. It was like I got a grant and some other stuff, so it was like a partial kind of thing.
Okay.
But it was it's weird. More adversity. I there was a level 2 D1 school in what's it called, Worcester, Massachusetts, that I was supposed to go to. I was ready to be on the team, but then they changed coaches that summer and said, "Hey," the new coach said, "Hey, sorry, Dan, I don't know yet. I don't know if you can come and try out. I just don't know if we have a guaranteed spot for you." So I had to pull audible, and I went to college in New Hampshire instead, where I met my wife. So
Uh-huh.
it all worked out.
So definitely all worked out. And so the university, that university, Southern New Hampshire University. Sorry, I've
Yep,
got
which is
my
like
notes.
a really big online school out of nowhere, but I was on campus for in Manchester, New Hampshire, for 4 years undergrad and 3 years in graduate school.
And they have a hockey program there.
Yep,
And
it's
so now
yeah,
we're moving into college. You are playing hockey, college level, and here comes alcohol. How does that?
yeah. I did not drink in high school at all. People would call me sober Dan when I showed up to the parties. And I would leave at like 11 because it seemed like it always got a little rowdy at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I walked in, all my drunk friends would be like, "Sober Dan is here." um, and that was my thing. But then once in college, I met my college roommate, who's like my brother, um, Josh. Like we just became really good friends. It's almost like we both needed each other. Like he had what I didn't have, and I'd had what he didn't have. But I would live the life that he didn't live, and it just we kind of fed off each other really well. So he allowed me to live more, but I also reminded him like how to persevere more, I guess, or
Mm-hmm.
so it was pretty cool. We just made each other better. And when we went out to parties, I would act like I was Josh. He would act like he was Dan. He's like, "Yeah, I play hockey. I'm from Connecticut," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Nashville, New Hampshire." And it was fun. We just tricked everybody. It was fun, but out of nowhere there was a party, and I had a beer, and then I felt buzzed, and then out of nowhere had a lot of fun, and then it turned into like a 4 year drinking sesh, where I was just partying a lot, like too much, that to the point that it took away from my ability to focus on like my grades and focus on hockey. And decisions weren't the right decisions that I made, but unfortunately, like, these are the experiences that we need as a young man to make mistakes early, so that when we become a father and a husband, we are so, like, locked in that there's nothing that's going to interfere with this bond.
I
And I
like
think
that thought
that's,
process.
yeah.
And, for a second there, what you were describing to me is what I would imagine, typical college is 4 years of drinking, having parties,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. That's in my mind what college is, right? And you're out there, you're living your life, you're away from your folks, you're
Doing on
experiencing,
your own.
yeah, and you have your dude, your buddy who's like pushing you to be better and you're pushing him to be better. And so like my mind was immediately going to the fact that I'm like, I hope that you gave yourself some grace during that period and weren't too hard on yourself for doing these things. But it sounds that this experience, I'm much older, I think. I'm assuming, I have no idea actually how old you are. But
I'm 40. I
oh
look
well,
younger. Yeah, I
I'm
look younger than
40.
I am.
I'm 42. So I was about to say, because sometimes I'll just say, I'm like, this old person says, you sowed your wild oats in your 20s, right? You're 18
Yeah.
to say 22 or whatnot. So when did you meet your best friend and now wife?
I met her my junior year. So it's like I got the absolute wildness out for 2 years before she even came. And me and my friend always were big fans of this girls' soccer team. So we always went to all the games, and she was playing, and it was cool because I'm a very physical hockey player where I just loved colliding to people and being gritty, as you can imagine, right? But she was doing the same thing in soccer, where she was a defenseman, and the girl's really skilled girl trying to go around her and like knock her down and be like, "What happened?" And it was funny. So we had a lot of things in common. We became best friends first, so it wasn't like a traditional college thing where there's like get together and then figure it out from there. But like we actually hung out for a long time, just watching Fresh Prince of Bel Air and having late night cereal without even knowing what was happening. So yeah, she was my best friend first.
I love that. And then you guys have gone on to create 3 beautiful lives
Yeah,
in
we're
there.
they're. I mean, we're good looking, but these kids are super good looking. It's super scary.
I'm
Um,
going to tell you that they are absolutely
yeah,
just the cutest children. When I pulled up the page, I was like, wow, good genes. There's good genes there.
they're phenomenal,
Um,
and they're athletic
and
too, beating all the boys out there. I love it.
well, and I was noticing this as well as when I was going through your Facebook page and your Instagram page, like it seems like some of your girls are like doing workouts, and I'm pretty certain I'm looking at one right now running on a treadmill.
Yeah, so like they were just getting ready for a Spartan race, so we were. Thank God for my dad. My dad, I think my mom made sure he didn't have me lift weights before I was 13. So I couldn't wait to be 13. So we're trying to do the same thing with them where they're not lifting weights. It's maybe like a pull up or a squat or something body weight focused. Nothing like that, just running. So they're doing a lot of soccer right now. Um, and my middle child does hockey. So it's really just allowing them to build through those sports, but also I just made a running plan for the first time for them because they're good. They're good at the Spartan races, and I feel like they could be one of the best. So we're just like a little. I give them a beginner's running plan, and starts today.
So you say Spartan race, and I feel like I need a nap. Um, so they're not very old, but they're out there doing it. You made a comment though. I want to come back because this is where I'm gonna ask some of my questions. You
Sure.
said your mom got your dad to not allow you to lift weights until you were 13.
Yes, because he was a big fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He had a big picture on his wall. He lifted every single morning. before work. So she obviously didn't want me to hurt myself, but also I was always short growing up. So I finally got taller in middle school, but all elementary school, I was always the shortest kid.
Okay. All right. Now, there's a thing that you wear around.
Yeah. Heart
What
rate
is the
monitor.
pardon?
It's a heart rate monitor.
Oh, see, I'm not that smart then, because I would never have figured that out. I've seen several pictures with you have that
Yeah.
on, and others as
Yeah.
well.
I'll send you the link, but people could save $65 off of it. Um, it's a heart rate monitor. So like when you train, a lot of people try to train off of how they feel, which is totally not correct. You may feel like you're okay, but if you're exceeding a certain level too much in your workouts, you'll burn out and you're not going to be able to work out tomorrow, or you're going to go hard this week and then quit next week. So knowing those zones, so you have like zone one, which is like you're barely putting out an output. Zone two is a great area to grow your endurance for your heart and everything and your muscle endurance. And then zone three is an area where you're kind of working hard, but you're not working too hard. So it's an area to train there a lot too. And then there's zone four, which is your threshold, which means that you are working harder than normal. But that's an area you want to grow, but not every single day. And then lastly, there's zone five, which is the area that you may see in your races a lot. But if you're in zone five a lot, then you are not training correctly and you're going to just burn out and hurt yourself or just run out of gas and quit. So it's
I
a
find
tool.
all of this very interesting. Um, like I said, I'm not athletic, so I do stretching and some push-ups, and I walk on a treadmill for an hour a day. So, like, I just, as I'm getting older, aiding that aging process is how I see it. And I don't
Yeah,
exercise to lose weight or bulk up. I exercise to feel good. Like, it's very mental health centric for
it
me.
really is.
But I find that there's so much science behind zones. And when you're saying zones, you're speaking specifically in heartbeat ranges.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, so like I'll tell you a quick story. Um it was several years ago. My friend and I, this is pre me really doing, I was about 60 pounds heavier. My friend and I went
That's
on a,
awesome.
yeah, so um, we went to a place south of where we are. It was during the pandemic, and he likes to hike. So he said, let's go do this place called Mount Owl. And I'm like, okay, but like we're gonna take it slow. And we get there, and so Mount Owl is actually um, like a ski slope type place, but they have trails
Yeah.
that go up to the top summit.
Yep.
So my friend, he's like, okay, I think we start here, and I don't know anything, so I'm following him blindly, and we're like climbing this mountain at this sort of incline, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me, and I'm
Yeah.
saying it to him, and I'm out of breath. I feel like my heart's gonna come out of my chest. I get sick, like I feel like I'm gonna vomit.
Yep.
And I'm looking at my heart rate here, which is never 100% accurate, I don't think, but
Yeah.
it's telling me that it's like 165, and I'm like, that can't be a good place to be when you're
Yeah.
out in the
That's
middle of nowhere,
yeah.
um, about to, climbing a mountain. So long story short, I I quit like so many times, but I don't quit because I'm like also stubborn. So, and I didn't want my friend to say that he could best me, and I'm like, screw you. I'm going to. If you get to
Yeah.
the top, I'm going to get there too. Um, long story short, we got to the top of the summit, and then I remember posting this silly video about like I think Miley Cyrus's mountain climb was playing in the background, and I was like,
Yeah.
everybody has a mountain to climb. I tried to use it for
Yeah.
something uplifting,
Anything you can.
anything you can. And then we coming down was just hard. When we get to the bottom, we're walking to the car, and my heart rate slowly coming down, not quickly. And we look, and there's a sign near where we started, and what he had us climb was called the kamikaze. It is the steepest ski slope on the mountain, and that's how we got to the top. Is vertically up.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that day I was in a dangerous heartbeat zone. For me, I imagine. So, like, where would 160, 165 be in your zones?
Everybody's different. So for you, that might be zone 5 or zone 6. For me, that's still zone 4, just because I'm training all the time. So it really depends on everyone's ability. But what I love your story, because that's what my podcast is called. It's Competitive Edge. And at that moment, you allowed the competitive edge inside of you to just come out and play. And you used your brain and your psyche to force your body to do something that it didn't want to do. Just like my last race, I got cramps in both calves halfway through the race, but we still managed to win. It hurt very badly, but the competitive edge pushed me through. But before that, it's that layer of your why and your purpose to not give up on yourself. But people that are looking to do a hiking thing like that, like, it's cool to do, but it'll be way more enjoyable if you just took like 60 to 90 days, and just when you do your hour walks every 5 minutes, put it on an incline for
Mm.
like a minute and come back down. And just like, it's so simple. And then just make sure you have your heart rate monitor. Even your watch will only be like 5 beats off. So it won't be that far off. So you don't have to buy a heart rate monitor. It's just more accurate the more you take it seriously, to have
Absolutely.
it right here. So, but yeah, so I think anybody can that wants to go hiking, but these things happen randomly. You could be like, hey, we're going to Sedona today. And they're like, then you go like to Devil's Bridge or something. You just don't know. So it's almost like, just for me, with being a parent and a father, is like preparing for the unknown. Like, you don't know if you have to carry your kid through 5 miles because they sprained their ankle. Like, can you carry your kid? I mean, we went through a bad trail in Santa Rosa. We didn't mean to go down it, but there was like an alligator alley, and I saw like the ground of the mud looked like a pretty big gator was sliding through earlier, and my daughter was terrified, so hysterical that she couldn't even walk. So I had to carry her. And if I saw a gator, do I have the ability to be fast enough to run away with her carrying her? So like, we're training for life. That's really what it is. Some people are just training for just aesthetics and to look good. That's a byproduct. You want to just live your life the longest you can, enjoying what you can without getting hurt. Like, my mom can't even be outside watching my kids' soccer games because of her allergies are so bad, which stems from health.
Mm.
So, we are what we put in our body.
I love this messaging. I will say, and I will give my best friend credit in the sense that I'm only as fit as I am right now because of him. Because when we became friends, it was during, like, really close friends, was during the lockdown, and we would go for a walk at, like, after he was done work at 11 at night.
Yeah.
And to me, before I met him, a walk would have been like, I don't know, a stroll for maybe an hour. But, we'd leave his apartment and end up somewhere. And then next thing you know, I'm checking and we just walked 12.5 kilometers.
Yeah.
And I was telling everybody in the beginning as a joke that he was trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And I do have to tell the listeners at home and yourself, because you might find this funny. There was competition, I think, with him. He was clearly had way more endurance than I did when it came to long walks and all of these sort of things. That hill, he didn't struggle nearly as much as I did, or like even within the same sort of ballpark. And then, where I live in Montreal, there's these steps that go up to this mountain in the middle and there's, I think, like 500 steps. And, you know, he took me up there once and he's all, you know, just doodle doodle doo. And I'm like, I thought I was going to die. And
Yeah.
so what had happened was, because of this, I was like, well, no, no, no. I'm like, I'm not going to hold him back. I want to flip the script. At least get to a point where I can keep up.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can, best him in some way or another. So fast forward a year after I started, like, and those same steps, he was the one that had to stop.
Oh,
And I had to give him almonds and some sugar so that
there you go.
he could survive. So that was, while, you know, obviously I don't want to see anybody I care about suffer, at the
Yeah.
same time, that was also a proud moment, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the competitive edge, as you say,
Yeah.
to push myself to better my whole body, my whole mindset, so that I could at least keep up, if not beat it
Yeah.
once or twice.
But that story kind of gives a good point to the listeners that are listening, that, you know, you don't have to be racing like big races like I am or anything like that. But if you're looking to just get on track, just remember consistency over intensity. Like the fact
Yes,
that he probably discontinued his process and you continued your process with consistency, and you surpassed him at that moment. And that's exactly why you did, because you stayed consistent towards your goals and staying active. So that's all. That's a great example for your listeners to be motivated, that no matter who you are or what your genetics are, if you stay consistent and work hard and have a good attitude, you're going to surpass your peers.
well, and that's just it, I think. And it is a good message, because people don't realize how much a half an hour walk could truly change their lives if they do it every day.
Yeah. Or you
Right?
can
It
listen,
doesn't have to be.
if you're a car salesman, you can listen to a car salesman podcast for 30 minutes and double wham it. You know what I mean? You can get
Yeah,
two birds in one stone while you're doing a workout, but you're also learning how to make more money for your business.
exactly. Exactly. I like that. Tell me, what is Deka Strong? Explain that to us.
So Deka is DEKA. It's a 10 station race. There's three different types. Deka Strong is no running at all. Deka Mile is a total of 1 mile, so 10 divided by 1 mile. So you're running each there, and then the last one is 0.31 each run. So that's a total of a 5K. So it's the same exact workouts, except there's one race with no running, there's one race with total of 1 mile, and there's one race that's total of a 5K.
And is the Deka where you lift the tube things?
Oh yeah, it's like a recycled tire that they formed into a cylinder weight.
Okay. Because that looks crazy intense.
Yeah, I mean it's heavy, it's different, so I think that's one reason why they stand out, because that's just a different type of thing.
There was another one here I saw that really I was like, wow. There's a 40-mile overnight run.
Yeah,
You have to explain this.
yeah. So I've actually never ran more than 22 miles before that moment, and that was maybe 3 years ago. And before that, I don't think I ran more than 20. So um, I saw something in late October or November. I was listening to Bedros Keuilian, and he was talking about how he does an annual Suffer Fest with his close buddies, and he does a hike overnight through the woods for 24 hours with his buddies, um, with just grit and everything, and that's how he starts his year, to know that when things are hard later on in the year, you can handle it gracefully. But at the same time, it opens the doors for anything out there for opportunity. So I was like, all right, well, let's do it my style. So I'm going to be 40 years old. So let's do 40 miles overnight with some crazy dudes. And I found some crazy dudes that have all ran 40 miles. And I think they'd have to drag me along because I'm muscular, and not so much of a gazelle.
Hmm.
But I've done a lot of running last winter, so and I didn't even train for it. I just kind of just did my thing. I just showed up and got rest, and I did awesome. I was probably one of the best runners out of all of them that night. I was flying. It was great.
How long did it take?
We started at 10:30 p.m. and we finished at little after sunrise. So probably like nine hours, I think.
Okay, so question. You're doing this overnight.
Yep,
You have
in the dark.
stations set up for water.
We had
You,
headlamps. So what we did was we parked my car full of like my wife's organic whoopie pies, which are phenomenal, full of calories, full of everything you need to refuel. Um, and Power Lift, which is like one of the companies that I represent. It's like a protein water with like magnesium, potassium, and all that stuff. And we had a bunch of it set up in my car, and it was like 5 miles out. So that basically did like a 5 mile loop, and then we went another way, 5 miles, came back around. So we hit the car, um, and stopped at another car. So we were able to have two aid stations, um, and just kind of took a break for a second. Everyone kind of went to the bathroom and drank and ate and recalibrated, and we did it again. But at 23 miles, we had one of our guys just struggling, and he was a new dad, and I'm like, and I'm competitive edge, and I was like, all right, what can I say to him to get him back? I'm like, listen, like, what would you do if your son was right there watching? Are you gonna like it's your decision? You could keep going the way you're going, and maybe we'll just go back to the car and drop you off. But what would he be thinking, or how would you be standing up straight, or how would you be breathing right now? And he's like, he turned it around, and it was awesome. He finished hard. We all finished together. We thought we were gonna have to drop him off, and his buddy who came to visit him, his best friend, would have to go with him. We would have lost two guys out of all of us. But they battled through. They finished last, but it was a group effort. At the end of it, when the sun came up, man, I was flying even more. It was just a weird moment. It really unlocked a lot of great things for me for this year so far.
that's amazing. 40 at 40. I
Yeah,
like that.
but I also did
Um,
40 burpees every hour in the street. It was cool, crazy, but cool.
Crazy. And so for anybody who's actually watching or listening, you I'm gonna link a few of the links for Daniel Hickman's socials. We can give a shout out to your
Yeah,
sponsor.
yep,
And then the link also to the nifty little device to measure your heartbeat that I saw. But for anyone, when you do see in the description, um, it's interesting because you talk in sort of beast mode, like you're talking, you know, to someone like me, it's very foreign. So like, first of all, you stayed up past 10, you spent the night running 40 miles. Like
yep,
it doesn't sound like something I would do, but I can definitely respect and appreciate the level of grit and just perseverance that a person would need to pull that off.
yeah.
So I find that really
I think it's just signing up for something that scares the living daylights out of you. That's the key. Sign up for
so in a
something that's
non-physical
nuts.
way.
Yeah,
That's
put it on the
what this
calendar.
podcast was, right? Was
Yeah,
stepping out from fear and saying, I want to do things that I love. I don't care what the world thinks about me or how this is going to land. I want to do something that's going to fill my cup.
yeah.
And it terrifies me. It's less terrifying now.
Hmm.
You're my 10th episode. But, I mean, it's less terrifying once you
Yes.
actually, and I love talking to people and I love highlighting great stories, which is going to segue me into the part where you have made Black hockey history. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time. Um, just trying to keep a job. It was my rookie year, and sorry, my second year. I went play at a higher level, then I came back down, and I ended up my entire life never having any African American hockey players on my team. And then here in 2006, here in Jacksonville, Florida, that's why we kind of live here now. Um, Ended up having two awesome guys that were just veterans that have way more hockey experience than I did at the time, and all of us were on one line. But it was not it was beyond what our ethnic background was, but we had exactly what we needed, like the perfect equation. Like for me to be gritty and hardworking, but also have offensive skill. And then you have Ty, who's just 6'4", a beast. He's like, you probably can't even move him because he's a brick, but he can shoot hard and he works hard and fast. And then you have Khalil, who is like kind of like the dark Gretzky out there, who just skates well, gracefully, could put it in the net with that. It's just a flick of his wrist, and it was just a perfect compilation of skills in one. And we were feared out there at the time. It was fun because I never had that in my life before, and growing up in Connecticut and going to school in New Hampshire, it's unforeseen. Like you don't see that at all. So it was really cool. But nowadays, like that's why I said in my interview on the news, is like it's no longer a surprise. Like we're in it. Like we're part of the sport now. And what I'd love to see the world grow and put more spotlight on is just women's hockey in general, just getting it bigger and getting it. Because I have a daughter in girls hockey, and their hope is always like, hey, I got to play with the boys so I can make it to USA Hockey one day. But now there's professional teams there's women's professional teams, so if we could just keep that going, I think that can help.
Well, I think that that's fantastic. And to be a part of representation matters, right? So for you, you may not have seen that before, but there are so many people because of you and others like you
Yeah,
who got to see themselves in a hockey player
yeah,
on the ice playing the game. And I think that's why we're seeing your black has arrived to hockey,
yeah.
right?
It's part of it.
Um, it's it's fantastic. It's representation I want to see. But you've made two comments now in this interview that I want to call out because I think they're fantastic. So the first one was when you actually said to me that you and your friend went and watched the women's soccer games, like just were like
Yeah,
huge supporters of that. And
yep,
then your next comment was, the focus being on women's hockey leagues.
yeah,
And so and this is what I think you're the type of person that people might think they know what you're all about, but they've only really scratched the surface. And once they scratch the surface, you're going to actually see so much more
yeah,
than what might be on the outside. So to hear you talk about that, this show is, I'm a feminist, not the man-hating kind. I always say that. I'm just the equality kind. I want women and men to be to hold the same space. And so to hear you say, someone who's successful, someone who's made a life for themselves, someone who is very athletic, and all of the wonderful things that you've achieved, focus twice on women's sports, like it gives me goosebumps because I think that
yeah,
that's the kind of stuff we need to see more of. I'm
yeah.
gonna take a
I
sip of
think I'm
water.
kind of hitting a. I think I'm hitting a time in my life where it's like it's less about me. It's more about what am I leaving behind? Like what torches am I passing along? Like my daughter's playing Spartan race. I trained and lived, drank, breathed in obstacle course racing for Spartan racing for like 3 years straight. And I have all this knowledge in my brain. And I'm like, let me just pass it all off up to them. You know what I mean? And it's just great to see them do something that I love that I just can't do right now. It's too much risk. Like you twist my ankle in the trail or something like that. Like it's not worth it. It's behind me, but I love to pass the torch. And then I get to coach girls hockey. I'm a girls hockey coach. And I love passing the torch to the girls because it's like I have all this knowledge and I'm not playing. Why not just give it to them? You know, and I think that's what we're all about in our whole life. I think it's for us to just literally just be a sponge our whole life and then just literally squeeze it on our youth, and enjoy the fact that they're doing something better because of what we told them in a shorter time span that it took us.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that you say you're passing the torch and the knowledge, but I think your support of women's sports was present long before you became a girl dad.
Yeah, I grew up with two older sisters,
Okay.
um, and my mom basically turned me into like a Mary Kay boy. So I was like carrying pink makeup bags into her meetings and hanging out at the women's salon and all that stuff while I was trying to like, it was just a way like for me to work for my mom. So like, cause
Yeah.
hockey's not, you know, cheap, but she'd be like, oh, here's $10 for what you did today. Or something like that. Or I would just be careful watching her drive, making sure like I'd be her eyes and protect her when we're in the middle of the Latin hood where she's selling makeup and stuff like that. But yeah, I basically grew up like that. And then all my dogs are girls. I love girl dogs. I don't know why I don't like boy dogs, but and then yeah, this whole house is all women.
Can't, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that that's fantastic, and it's interesting because I'm going to get this wrong, and I think if my brother ever watches this podcast, he's probably going to be very angry because I messed this up. But my niece Angelique Sims is a part of. Oh God, don't get me. She's not in Team Canada, but she's a part of the leagues that feed into Team Canada.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, maybe like
Yeah.
USHL or something like that.
Yeah, like she's been playing hockey. My brother loved hockey. All his kids have been in hockey. I'm not a big hockey fan. On just
Me
that
either.
is what it is. But he
I can't
loved
watch it.
it, and
Yeah.
um, her and her younger brother Tage, and I think even the youngest sibling Armand is really taking to it as well. Like they have just played all over the U.S. and Canada in hockey games in their respective leagues, um, and she's been very successful. And she's only, I think, maybe 19 now. I think she's 18, almost 19.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I think that when we show our children our passions,
Mm-hmm.
they may take to those passions and turn them into their own passions, and maybe go further than we ever could
Yep.
or do something completely different. But
Yes.
I like that you're teaching your kids strength and endurance,
Yep.
and that you're giving them skills to not just thrive, but also survive, right?
Yes. That's a
Um,
big one right there. Surviving. I want them to know that like if I never married their mother, she was on a perfect track of being able to take care of herself, not
yes.
relying on another man to survive. And my oldest actually was good at hockey, but she wanted to be different and do something and just battled back, didn't want to do it. She was good at it, but just decided I don't love it. So supporting her to do something different. So like even though we're all good at something, like my dad was good at basketball, U.S. Marine, doesn't mean I had to go that route. So it's like she's kind of living that same way that I did. My second child absolutely loves hockey. My third child is more like she's like already doing really good things at 4 years old, but she wants to do dancing. So it's like whatever they want to do, either way, those sports will teach them how to handle adversity, how to handle relationships, how to handle hard times, how to handle whatever you put in is what you get. Um, it's all in sports. It's everything they need to prepare them for work, to prepare them for marriage. It's all there. So get your kids in taekwondo, whatever it is, get them into something.
Teach them the skills because they're
Yeah,
transferable, right? The discipline you
exactly.
learn in taekwondo can be transferred to future job roles
Yeah,
or
chess,
yeah.
whatever. It doesn't have to be a sport. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like even the video. I mean, video games not the best, but they have video game leagues and stuff like that. Takes hard work and attention to detail and fast twitch reactions. Um, so there's a benefit to everything. So
perfect. I love it. So, what's next for you?
don't know. I'm kind of allowing. I'm surrendering right now. This is last year. I think I was a lot of forcing.
Yeah.
Like I was like, hey, I think I realized just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to scale it and turn it into a business. So
Okay.
I was a hybrid coach, did a great job, but it didn't feed the soul when I did it. Like I loved my clients doing good and everything, but the time that it took me away from my family and it just didn't line up. Um, so I'm still trying to find it. I run a physician recruiting company. I help doctors get jobs at radiologists. It's a really great company that allows me to do so much with my family and have freedom. I love it. It's like a love hate relationship because it pays the bills really good. But there's always this passion. It's like, hey, what do I want to do? And there's something in the future that I've been just kind of toying with. I think I need to journal more and do some more inner deep thinking. But I'm picturing like dad retreats where dads come to just sharpen their sword to be better with become better with other like-minded dads who want to not just be average, not to be okay with just being Tom, like, but you're more than just Tom. There's
Mhm.
something inside of you that you locked away when you became a dad and you put it in a cage. And I just want to see how I can help release those beasts out of the cage and allows these men to live a more um, adventurous life, low risk, of course, but not regretting their life but allowing themselves to live to become a better father and a better man overall. So
Yeah, and I like that actually because I think that there would be a market for that for dads who may have lost a bit of themselves when they, became dads or even husbands
yeah,
to start with. Because sometimes marriages come with levels of expectations you weren't
you're right.
ready for.
Yeah,
Um, Having kids change your life. There's
does
no way
image like we
around it.
talked about earlier. Image, you lose your
Yes.
image.
So I think that could be definitely marketable and also impactful for other people who come to, like, say, a weekend retreat, un- unleash your beast dad
Yeah,
retreat. I don't know. Maybe that sounds a little weird or
it could be
off-brand.
anything. It's just it's also been like I've been thinking like, hey, maybe there's like an online platform where there's like endless workouts, but also part of a community, but then have these quarterly meetups. Um, so I'm still trying to put it all together, but I think becoming a better speaker and allowing myself to come on great shows like this to speak my message is coming clearer and clearer every time.
And you had mentioned that you want to. This is a focus for you as well, is become a public speaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So
think you. I
once
think that you have this already.
I
You,
appreciate it, thank you. I'm
no,
just trying
you're
to
well
get it out
spoken.
there.
You're clear. All of those things. I think I don't know how much you dial into manifesting, but I think that um, that is something you possess already have it. So how do you use it?
Exactly.
Um, this has been great. So as we close out, what do you want the world, or at least the listeners or watchers of this program today, to know? What's your message to them?
Message to anyone who's listening is to realize that you're more than you believe you are, and our biggest obstacle is our mind. And never mind everyone else out there in the world. That man or woman in the mirror is your biggest adversary, and they will hold you back, and you need to control that. And the best way to do that is to understand what you want and what it takes to get there, and continually write that before you go to bed and read it when you first wake up, and commit to being better. But also just realize, like we talked about earlier, consistency over intensity. If you stay consistent and you have a great attitude and you work hard, you can have anything you want.
Great words, and I agree with that completely. And people say consistency all the time, but it really is just consistency.
Yeah.
Continue to show up for yourself, no matter what the application may be that you're trying to apply it to in your life. But show up for yourself. You're going to gain traction, and you're going to get there. Daniel, thank you very much for coming on the show today. I'm going to get the link from you and make sure I link your social media.
Sure.
I hope to see you on a TED Talk one day. I think that might be in your
That's the
future.
plan.
Yeah.
That's the
So,
plan.
uh, once again, just thank you very much for being here. And I wish you the best.
You know what? You just said that, and I said what I just said to everyone. So now, by me saying that, it's going to keep me accountable. There's something that I do um, for my races and for my income from my company is I write on a piece of paper in the beginning of the year, and I write down per month what I want to do or what I want to accomplish. And so far, all of that is coming true every single month, but I haven't written down TEDx speaker events. So I'm going to have to add that so I could add that into my manifestation log. So highly recommend that, guys. Thanks to
Yes.
CK.
And go over and fill out that application because I feel like your story is worth a stage like TED,
Cool.
right?
Yeah,
So I
I
want to
believe
see a
it.
TED Talk within the next 12 months.
You got it. Well, whatever I can do to help market, let me know.
All right. Thanks again. Talk soon.